In this video, we're gonna find out why are so many Northern Virginia residents relocating to Richmond, Virginia. Is it the culture, the affordability, the thriving food and drink scene, or something else? Well, we're about to find out because we're getting started right now. Hey everybody, it's David, your favorite realtor. As always, you know it's another beautiful day right here in Northern Virginia. If it's your first time here on my channel, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button because every week I release videos what's like to live, work, play, pros and cons, top neighborhoods, cost of living, basically everything that you must know about living right here in Northern Virginia. So this video is gonna be based on an article I just recently read on Axios.com called Northern Virginia Residents Are Relocating to Richmond in Droves. It's a great article. I'll leave a link in the description. And for the purposes of this video and with the article, this is coming from the perspective of relocating to Richmond, but still working in the Northern Virginia area. So let's do an overview of Richmond. So Richmond is actually the capital of Virginia. And the way Richmond looks is you have the city of Richmond right in the middle and it's surrounded by 7 counties. So it actually makes up the Richmond metro area. And this has a population of about 1.1 million. And if you compare that to Northern Virginia, it's a lot smaller because Northern Virginia has a population of 2.5 million. So Richmond, Virginia is gonna be known for its affordable cost of living, strong job market. Richmond also has that funky hipster scene. It's gonna be very similar to like Austin, Texas or Portland, Oregon. Also, Richmond is known for its thriving food and drink scene. You have so many local restaurants, craft breweries all throughout Richmond. Another great thing about Richmond is you have the James River going right through downtown Richmond. So you can do a lot of water activities like fishing, kayaking, rafting, and so much more. But Richmond is definitely not a part of Northern Virginia, not even close. It's not even on the outskirts of Northern Virginia. So Richmond's gonna be about 107 miles away from Arlington, Virginia. And in fact, Richmond is actually closer to the Virginia-North Carolina border than it is to Northern Virginia. So Northern Virginia and Richmond, they're gonna have complete different cultures, completely different. So the best analogy I can come up with is, think of DC and Northern Virginia as New York City and New Jersey. And Richmond, like I mentioned earlier, has more of that Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon vibe. So what is happening? Well, this article states that the average number of Northern Virginians moving to the area in 2020 and 2021 jumped 36% compared to the periods between 2012 and 2019. So why are so many Northern Virginia residents deciding to relocate to Richmond in the first place? And the first reason is gonna be affordability. And I've said it a million times, hands down the biggest con of living in Northern Virginia is the high cost of living, especially when it comes to housing. And that's not the case at all with Richmond. In fact, according to Redfin.com, the average median sales price of a single family home in Richmond only comes out to $329,000. Now let's compare that to Fairfax County, for example, where the average median sales price of a single family comes out to $817,000. That is a massive difference. So let's break it down even more to see exactly kind of what your monthly payment will be on that mortgage. Let's compare what your principal and interest payment will be with the median sales price of a single family home in Richmond compared to Fairfax County. So using 10% down for the Richmond house, your monthly payment will come out to $1,775 per month. And then for the single family home in Fairfax County, using 10% down, your principal and interest payment will come out to $4,407 per month. That's a difference of over $2,600 a month in savings. That's like getting a $30,000 raise just like that. I don't know about you, I could do a lot with $2,600 a month. You can put your kids through private school, save for your kids' college fund, pay for your kids' after-school activities, have plenty of money for family vacations, and most importantly, have money left over to help invest in your financial future. So imagine earning the high income of working in Northern Virginia, yet having the benefit of the affordability of living in Richmond. So this is hands down the biggest reason why so many people are relocating to Richmond from Northern Virginia. Now, the second reason why so many Northern Virginians are relocating to Richmond is, in this post-pandemic world, remote and hybrid work has become the norm. So if you're working in Northern Virginia and you work 100% remotely, well, guess what? You can live anywhere you want, and especially Richmond. Now, let's say you actually do have to go into the office, let's call it 2 to 4 times per month. Richmond makes a lot of sense because you can take the Amtrak train directly from Richmond straight into DC or Alexandria. It's gonna be about like 2.5 hours each way, or you can even decide to drive. It'll be about a 2 to 2.5 hour drive each way as well. So if you only have to go in the office maybe 2 or 3 times per month, then Richmond is definitely doable. Now, an interesting thing that this article says is Northern Virginia residents, they don't necessarily love Richmond. They just don't love Northern Virginia. And that makes sense. I've stated a bunch in previous videos. Northern Virginia, it is not for everybody. Especially if you didn't grow up in this area and maybe relocated from like the South or the West Coast. It can be a huge adjustment getting used to the way Northern Virginia is compared to maybe where you came from. I know me personally, I went to middle school and high school in Florida before I moved to Northern Virginia. And when I first moved here, it literally took me 2 to 3 years to really get accustomed to living here because it was so different compared to growing up in Florida. Also, the Richmond locals, they're not exactly thrilled about the influx of Northern Virginia residents coming to Richmond. They are very much afraid of turning Richmond into just another suburb of Washington, D.C. In fact, if you drive around Richmond, you'll see a lot of bumper stickers that say, "Don't Nova my RVA." And what that stands for basically is "Don't Northern Virginia my Richmond." It's very similar if you go to Texas, you'll see bumper stickers that say "Don't California my Texas." It's pretty much exactly the same. And as I mentioned, Northern Virginia and Richmond, there are two completely different areas. And the locals in Richmond, they want their culture to stay the same, and that's not going to necessarily happen if a lot of Northern Virginians end up moving to Richmond. Now, should you live in Richmond if you work in Northern Virginia? Well, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, do you actually like Richmond? If you don't like Richmond, then it's a no. But let's say you actually really do like Richmond. Maybe you grew up there, went to college there, and you just really love living in Richmond, but you also like the money you make in Northern Virginia. Then living in Richmond can be a great option for you. The next part of the equation is, how often do you actually have to go into your office in Northern Virginia? If you're 100% remote, I say go for it. If you love Richmond, definitely go and live there. Now, if you got to go in the office, let's call it 1 to 4 times per month, I think it's still doable. You can either drive there or take the Amtrak like I mentioned earlier in the video. And just so you know, it takes 2.5 hours from the Richmond station into Alexandria station. It's actually only $40 round trip, so that's not bad at all. But keep in mind, you will be on a train for a total of 5 hours per day. Now, let's say you have to be in the Northern Virginia office 4 to 5 times per week. I would 0% recommend living in Richmond because you'll be traveling 4, 5, 6 hours per day. Multiply that by 5, you're looking at 25 plus hours a week of travel. That is no way to live. I don't care how much money you're making here in Northern Virginia. If that's the case, just live here in Northern Virginia. So I 100% see this trend continuing of Northern Virginians relocating to Richmond in droves. Because as long as Richmond's affordability is way less compared to Northern Virginia, it's always going to be very attractive to a lot of people. But I say this, at the end of the day, live wherever makes you the most happy, what brings the most value to your life. Me personally, I've lived in Northern Virginia for 20 plus years. I absolutely love it. And probably 98% of the people that I know who live in Northern Virginia, they love it here as well. And if you want to learn more about living right here in Northern Virginia, check out these videos right here. They're gonna be great resources for you. And I'll see you on the next video.